Welcome to Grapplearts Radio.
Hey everybody, it's Stephan Kesting from Grapplearts.com, and today I'm talking to Gustavo Dantas. Gustavo's a really interesting guy because not only is a high-level black belt, a high-level competitor, a very successful coach, but he's also really delved deeply into the mental aspect of performance on the mat and performance in other areas of your life. And looking at jiu-jitsu kind of as a test case or a crucible or a training ground for the rest of your life. We'll get more into that later, but first I want to welcome Gustavo. Hey, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Glad to be here.
No, it's my pleasure. So let's sort of start at the beginning. You are Brazilian and you're born in Brazil, yes?
Yes, I was born in Rio, and when I was 24, I moved to the United States.
Okay.
So I've been in the United States for 16 years.
Okay. And for you run into some people who've been in North America for 20 years and you can still barely understand them. So how did your English get so good? That's the first question I've got for you.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. When I was 17, my mom got me a scholarship to study English. It was only twice a week, hour and a half each class, so 3 hours. So I did about 3 hours per week for 7 years, which gave me a good foundation, grammar, as far as my vocabulary and stuff. But I did not, honestly, I was the worst in class. I was the worst guy in class because everyone has actually traveled to do exchange programs and so forth, and so I barely would open my mouth there because I'd be super self-conscious of my English. But when I came to the U.S. for the first time, and I was like, you know what? Actually, I'm not that bad. I can actually get around and communicate. And little by little, I start to study more, and I just feel that everything I want to get involved in, I want to do well in jiu-jitsu or my personal professional life. And with English wasn't different. I want to make sure, I want to speak well. I want to make sure that if I have, in this case, now, especially now that I have a message to share with people, I want to be as clear as possible. So over the year, a lot of studying, just trying, asking, writing down, trying to clean up my English as much as I can. It's just something that I always wanted to keep in. I still learn very often, matter of fact.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was hoping that there was some kind of secret pill you could take, but now you're telling me that you actually have to study and train at something to get good at it. So
I think it's maybe some of the 10,000 hours that you put that you put to work or whatnot. I think it works. And now a quick interesting story that, especially when I was leaving Brazil, back then just only VCRs. Internet was kind of like coming around. Didn't have a lot of things, and I would study English. There's not too many channels in Brazil that actually show with subtitles. So the few one I had, I recorded, and I put a piece of newspaper and cover the bottom of the TV. So I watch it, and I will try to catch as much as I could, as much as I could understand, maybe 3 or 4 times, and then I'll watch it without the paper with the subtitles, and I'll be learning words like a lot of different words. Like, for example, I remember the very first word was bother. I was like, I've heard about brother. I've never heard of bother. What's this bother? So I will look in a dictionary. But it's funny because nowadays, man, the technology is so amazing. But back then, it's just VCR recorded, put a piece of paper in front of the TV, and that's actually, it worked for me. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny. I think people sometimes misunderstand that 10,000-hour rule. It's not just 10,000 hours necessarily of doing something. You could spend 10,000 hours in an English class and not learn anything if you weren't actively engaged in it. It's 10,000 hours of engaged practice, of caring, of trying, of doing things like taping a newspaper to the bottom of your television. Although I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, that's why I was creative.
Well, when I was learning, actually, you're Nova União, which is, for people who don't know, it's a really big jiu-jitsu and I guess MMA team, mostly in Brazil, but all around the world now. And when I got interested in the butterfly guard, that was a long time ago. There were no real butterfly guard instructionals, but there were little clips of a lot of the Nova União guys doing butterfly guard stuff in competition, and little bits of instructional clips. This is long before YouTube. So I got, again, a VCR, and any clips I could get, I would do a little, I would copy that clip onto a tape, and I had my butterfly guard tape, and it was just full of little bits of, here was, Andre Pedneris doing a butterfly guard sweep. Here was Leo Santos doing something. And was it as efficient as somebody showing me the butterfly guard step by step? No. But I think to some extent the effort that you go through, it means it sinks deeper into your mind maybe, as opposed to just having it all laid out for you there on a silver platter. At least that's what I tell myself.
Yeah, it's another person that it was really big in doing exactly what you did, Mark Lehman. He was one of the first guys to come out with like tapes and studying and a lot of the stuff. He was the one that kind of got me into that, to just study more footage of competition or whatever he could get hold of. So he was really good at that, studying and trying out. Sometimes what can be tough is you learn a few moves, but you need specific reactions to work with some specific counters. And sometimes when I moved to Arizona, it was very challenging because, let's say in the first month, I had 11 people and some white belts and some weak blue belts. So I could sit and then just do my butterfly sweep and sweep anybody. It's not like I needed to use any variation. But realistically, okay, what about when he's shifting his weight to this side? Okay, what about when he put the knee up? What about putting him in the mat? So we start to recognize the patterns of each position. And it definitely helps when I have good training partners that like my foundation, I do a lot of guard like on my back control and sleeves and so forth. But I did do a lot of butterfly too. And at Andre school at Nova União, there was a lot of butterfly. That's kind of like their foundation. So I ended up getting really good knowledge, but not necessarily so much like Andre, like, okay, you do this, you do that. It was like from training partners, like especially Shaolin, he's still really good at it. But be it just getting hit with the same move over and over, like, okay, now let me try to stop this way. Okay, got it. And then I started to implement this when I was on the bottom. So I started to transfer the knowledge from top and bottom. You just understanding patterns, understanding system. Butterfly is a system, and you want to try to master that, understand the patterns.
It's an interesting position to be in when your training partners aren't, when you've got high-level skills and your training partners don't have the right reactions to allow you to develop the high-level skills or maintain them. I think sometimes people say, well, how do I become better in a situation like that? And really the answer is to teach all your students how to counter your movements, or how to make your students as good as possible, and then they'll give you a fight. So as opposed to keeping this, you still see it once in a while, like people like hoarding their techniques and like trying to hide it from their students. But they might be able to beat up their students, but they're not going to be getting any better.
Yeah, this is a great point that you bring it up, because I always bring this to my students. I've been in Arizona since 2000. And in the beginning, I'll be straight honest, when I left Brazil, a lot of my friends, that's when I started doing battery competitions, and the results were popping up, and a lot of my friends said, Gustavo, where are you going? Now we're doing well, we're not going to have any training partners, you're just going to go down. So I bought all that, I put it in my head, and that messed with my confidence. It really did. I'm like, man, it took me so long. I don't have the training partners that I have anymore, like Shaolin and Hustle Moore, like I don't have those guys anymore. And I'm with a bunch of white belts, and that, like my confidence just sunk big time. And it took me years because I could get whatever I wanted. And then I started to show them how to stop. And then little by little, I started using my variation. And that actually, this helping my game to be more aggressive as far as putting sequence one move after another, since I was one attempt, second, third, and then maybe getting your fourth one. But just because I started teaching my students how to stop my best moves, and I had to start to figure out how do I get around those roadblocks they're throwing at me. So over the years, I started to develop some really tough students, man. We got a really good group in Arizona. It's because of that, just constantly getting to, from no one being able to do anything to be able to maybe get me in a sweep, or to eventually someone pass my guard or someone submit me. It's just a process. One thing that is very powerful that Underpet Henry said is that if my goal is not to build someone to be better than I am, what is the point of teaching?
Mm-hmm.
What is the point if you're just going to teach, you limit someone so you are the main person of the academy? It's so that's, I always keep that in mind, that what is the point of teaching that?
Mm-hmm.
So my goal is to share whatever I know, and whatever I don't, because I do study a lot of jiu-jitsu, a lot of footage, especially competitions, and we share at the school. We teach by topic of the week, and oftentimes topic of the month. And then we just go over, just master that system down, try to get as much information, a lot of specifics. Like right now, we're doing a lot of pressure passing for a month. Actually, we're going to go into 5 weeks, a lot of Bernardo Faria style, and using a lot of the stuff that he shared on his videos and so forth. And he's really good at it. And
the over-under stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting that thing down.
On everybody. It's one guard.
Yeah. It's just amazing how you see his game evolving. Like, he used to do that, but now he's getting his system down, like really understanding the patterns of the defense, what they try to do. So he's doing a great job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that would be an example of one area of focus, would have been like a month, or you said 5 weeks of pressure passing. What else might you focus on for another week or another month? What's another one that you focused on?
It really depends on the topic that he wants to. There's some topics that will be a little longer. And, for example, last month we did 1 month of steamer lock.
Okay.
And so it's pretty awesome that how people start to, because then if steamer lock it's a big game changer. Positions that he could just hang there like, oh, it's okay, I can chill here for a little bit, and suddenly get hit from an angle that he did not expect. And most of the time, if you see highlights or people getting caught on it, there's no tapping. It's always like, because it's so quick. So that's a topic that we spend a month, doing different kind of different situations, and I'm very glad that people start to pull it off in tournaments. I have like just an interesting thing that I have with my students. I call the free lunch challenge, which is sometimes there's one specific move that you're the first one to pull it off in a tournament, get lunch for free. So it did last month was the steamer lock, and Jamie Varner, familiar with Jamie Varner? He's MMA fighter.
Yeah, I've heard the name. I've never met him.
Yeah, he was a WC lightweight champion now, and then he retired from the UFC, but he trains too, and he won the Worlds in Ogi in the final doing a steamer lock from Reverse de la Hiva. And the ref wasn't familiar with it. They wanted to disqualify him, so it took like 10 minutes for people to say, no, it's legit. No, it worked, because a lot of people still don't know. And if you don't know about it, you can get caught big time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, definitely hats off to the Steamer brothers, especially Victor. I think is the one that came up with it, because it's a game changer, man. Very powerful move.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like that free lunch challenge. I guess it's biased towards white belts to compete first, but that's fair. Black belts are going to get their chance.
It's just a fun way for them to try some different stuff. And Jamie hit it again yesterday. I had that Arizona Masters Cup here, and he hit it from the same body with a gi this time, and he's a brown belt now. And he hit it from the same position, from Reverse de la Hiva, because it's always there. But yeah, we just choose whatever topic sometimes I feel that we need work, and then we do it.
Okay. Now let's sort of talk about when. So were you training with Nova União right from the beginning, and when did you start jiu-jitsu?
No, I started training in 1989, and I started training with. There was not too many schools back then in Brazil. and I did for about 2.5 years with the only school that I had in my neighborhood, and it wasn't really what I was looking for. It wasn't for me as far as I do like the self-defense, but I was looking for sport jiu-jitsu. So I do like self-defense too. But I wanted to get involved in competitions. I always wanted to. I got my blue belt with this instructor, and then I just kept bugging him to put him in a tournament. I finally did, and when I went, it was a disaster. I got my ass kicked, and and I thought, I was like, man, something is wrong. I don't miss a freaking class, and I just get killed here, and I started to look around, and that was the tournament. The reality is tournaments can make you or break you, really, and you can really use as a motivation to be like, I really want to do better for myself, or it can really, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I hate losing, and then I stop. So I believe the competition can really do that, make you or break you. And then eventually I started training with one of De La Riva's black belt, and which was until purple belt, and it gave me a lot better training with his foundation. I was able to take third at the Worlds, and the first Worlds in '96 as a purple belt. And after that, he stopped teaching he has personal reasons. He was a police officer, and I had to look for a place to train, and I didn't think twice. I was watching other Pioneers guys coming up, and I was like, I want to go there. So I went there when I was a purple belt, and been with him since.
That was one of the, or probably still is, one of the bigger schools in Rio. Is that not true?
Yeah. Well, right now they try to bring the gi back, because there's one point that, when Shaolin started going to MMA, and Hobson actually did some MMA fights too, there's not the opportunities that there is today. They're available today. They didn't have back then. Like, even opportunities for seminars, that was something that wasn't very common, and internet, and I mean, the chances that you do have now to become an entrepreneur and make a living with jiu-jitsu back then it was challenging. Guys had to go to MMA, so a lot of the better guys are going to MMA. Someone left the state because they wanted to do their own thing. So the gi program there went down, and the MMA went up. And now they're attempting to bring back and try to make some changes. But I was very blessed to be in that group, and that was the best gi generation that they ever had, and I was part of that. So, and seeing guys what they did to accomplish their goals, that set my bar very high. Especially, I was mentioning how Shaolin was my role model as far as dedication and discipline in jiu-jitsu, and he set the bar very high for students who want to accomplish big things. And I look, and it just comes like it just plays a movie. Like, hey, are they doing what they take to accomplish this high goal? And oftentimes they're not. So they need to reevaluate a lot of the things that they want, their goals and so forth.
I've met Shaolin and trained with him, and you can really see that. Well, you want to call it maybe a work ethic even, or discipline. Like, here is what you should do, here is what I need to do, and let's do it, as opposed to, oh, come on, let's just roll. Let's just, so when you showed up as a purple belt, Shaolin, I guess, was the most famous Nova União guy competing at that point. Is that right, or am I?
Shaolin, when I got there, Shaolin was a brown. Because at one point we were blue belts at the same time, purple belts at the same time, and then he was a purple belt for 6 months, 6 or 7 months, because all the big tournaments back then. Of course, there's not as many tournaments there right now, and he pretty much won all the major tournaments of purple belt, and then as soon as he moved to brown, he was dominating brown too. So he was one of the biggest standouts, and by the time he was a black belt, he was. João Hawk is one of others black belt that makes some noise in the early '90s as well too. But as far as the newer generation that came in, I think Shaolin was he started from white belt with Andre. He was one of the first ones. So we never competed before. There's one tournament that I took third, was on the other side of the bracket, but we never actually faced. But we're kind of, of course I knew who he was. He was aware of that I compete and stuff being the other school. But it's a quick, interesting story. The first time that I went to Underperform, I don't know if you or any of the listeners, sometimes you can go to visit and then you just kind of, man, how it's going to go, you're not sure, how is everyone's going to be cool, there's that fear of the unknown in the air,
Mm-hmm.
So Andre just showed the position and everything, and I was on one side of the room, Shaolin was on the other side, and Andre just said, all right, we're going to start rolling, and he just raised his hand from the other side of the room like, yo, dude, you want to go? I'm like, sure. He knew exactly who he wanted to go against in the first round. It's kind of like, there's a fresh meat, I want to see what's up.
Mm-hmm.
And he got it, and he beat the hell out of me and submitted twice. But I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from him on that, getting caught with stuff, and understanding timing. I was with him and Hobson because they competed. I went to coach them at the Polaris in the UK. And so I had a chance to see him training, being with him, a few more days. And I went to speak in New York, too, at his school. So it was awesome to see, his timing, his skill, his awareness of positions. It was really good. So it was awesome to be able to see him training again.
When somebody takes off like that, I'm not just talking about Shaolin, but you see this in MMA, too, where somebody's training. But they're more, if they win some tournaments, they lose some tournaments, or they're, beating some classmates and losing to some classmates, and then all of a sudden their level goes through the roof. I think, you see this a little bit with Marcelo Garcia, right? Like back, if you watch the old footage, he wins some, he loses some, and then all of a sudden he hits Abu Dhabi and boom, Shaolin, was doing okay, but all of a sudden 6 months for purple belt, which is amazing. I'm trying to think of other examples, and I'm sure I'll come up with them as soon as we stop talking.
I listened to your interview with Keenan, and Keenan mentioned about that, how he lost so many
exactly.
tournaments.
Keenan would be another great example.
Yeah.
So what do you think it is that those guys who make that sudden breakthrough after they're just working hard, for sure, but then all of a sudden, kaboom, their game comes together, and is it as simple as their game finally comes together and their guard passes start working with their guard sweeps, or what is it?
I feel that it's a combination of things. Perseverance is one. Again, competition can make you or break you. How bad do you want it? And perseverance, and one thing that I think it just set up the environment that you need. That's something that Keenan talked about too. Are you the coaches that you need, the training partners that you need? Because when it took me six matches to win my first tournament. My first tournament, I think I won after maybe 6 tournaments, but it was a small one. I only won one tournament as a blue belt.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, there are not as many tournaments as back then, but, I was not in an environment that I needed to be.
Right.
From number one I was the only person at school it was a gym, with a fitness gym, kind of little ghetto, but so the owner had a little room that he taught jiu-jitsu, so the program was kind of there, so there's 10 to 15 people, that was the whole program, and I was the only one that was interested in, I want to know more about the tournaments. So, and then finally I did, and I look around, people are doing it, I'm in the wrong place, and I was 16 still, close to 17 maybe, and I told my mom, I need to get out of here. This something's wrong. It's not for me. And then when I changed, it was and then Fernando Cruz, my coach, took me to a better level, and then it kind of plateaued. It just there was so much so far that he could really take me. Plus, he had to do his had some personal issues that he had to stop teaching for a few years. But when I started training with the Underperform, that's when everything changed, because I was surrounded by people that were looking for the same goal. And of course, great great instruction, great coaching, great training partners. The environment was perfect, and little by little my confidence started coming up. Like, man, if I can hang with those guys, I can hang with anybody. And that's
like a surviving these killers.
Yeah, and
who know my game.
I mean, yeah, it's a perseverance, really breaking through the wall, the growing pains that you have to go through, and it sucks. It sucks when you for people who maybe have been struggling. Some of the listeners have been struggling with this. You just have to keep pushing. If you're competing, it's something that you want. It's just like, no, this is something I really want. There's no other way around. If it was easy, everyone would do it. So it's you're gonna have to pay the price. Some people are more, every sport got there, like Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? But Jordan's not just naturally freak, but his work ethic is to the roof too. So that's what made him special. So there are a lot of guys who are super talented and they work hard and they're amazing. And Shaolin always talks about this. They're like, man, I'm not the most talented guy, but I work hard, and I can vouch for him that I've never seen anyone, especially when he wasn't in his peak, of being more disciplined than he was. Right. And he said, like, his desire, his work ethic compensates for his, let's say, him being hard on himself, like talent, because it's not like he's not talented, but him being hard on himself, saying that, like, I take more pride of my work ethic than talent, which is 100% accurate.
Now, I'm 100% on board that nothing is accomplished without perseverance. And we've all seen guys who are super talented without perseverance come into the gym, and maybe they do okay for a little bit, but it's they don't have that work ethic, and then they never make it above a certain level. But what about, just to be the devil's advocate here, there are also people who have a ton of perseverance. They grind away, but they never make that leap. So I don't think it's a guarantee necessarily. Maybe it's a guarantee that if you don't have perseverance, you'll never succeed. But if you do have perseverance, unfortunately, it's not a guarantee that you will succeed. Does that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like, for example, Keenan, which I'm a fan of. Some people may think that they're like, oh, he's an overnight success. I mean, one day, boom, double gold. It's like, he has been building that bridge, for a long time.
Yeah.
And since he attempted for the first time training, he has been building that bridge, and then he arrived in a way as far as like people saw, like, hey, check out that dude. It takes time to get there, and some people are not willing to do it, and some it's just the coaching sometimes not there. The level is getting very high. Every year the worlds are getting rougher and rougher. For any of the listeners who follow the competition scene, you look at the brackets for the black belt, and then you look on Sunday, you see the final 8. You get surprised with how many amazing guys didn't make to Big 2. Mm-hmm. You look around like, oh my God, this guy didn't make the second day. Now it's they do one match that it's okay. Second match is ready. Boom, big match. Tough guys. Like, it's being super competitive, and the lower belts too. A lot of the lower belts are becoming a lot more professional. And the guys who come and train 3 times a week, they are not going to do it. They're just not going to do it, period. If they want to compete in high level, they're going to have to pay the price, be surrounded by the right environment too, the right coaches. So it's definitely a full package, Plus the mental, it's huge, because sometimes it could be and doing well at the school, you're improving, but when you get at the tournament, you feel that you're not performing to the best of your ability, and that's something very common that most likely a lot of the listeners have been going through at some point, and maybe left the match, and I'm like, man, that was not me there. I don't know what happened. I'm so much better than this, and I guarantee that a lot of people can relate to that. Mm-hmm. And that's when a lot of my passion comes in for being there before, and be like, you know what, I want to find the source of my problem, and as I start to actually find the source, I start to share with people to say, hey, let me help people to find the source of their problems. and that's kind of how I got involved with the mental training and personal development.
Which is the next thing we're going to go on to. But I have to say, I was laughing when you're talking about Keenan being an overnight success, because one of my favorite quotes is from Willie Nelson when somebody asked him about how overnight success felt, and he's like, overnight success feels great after playing 10 years in honky tonks behind chicken wire. Nobody sees the hard work, and then they're like, oh, look at this guy, he has it easy. But no, it's because he was putting the 10 years of hard work, playing in, getting his 10,000 hours in.
No kidding.
But I do want to move on to the mental training aspect of it. But first, I've got a couple questions from Twitter for you. So I put out something at Stephan Kesting, my Twitter handle. And so people had some quick questions for you. We'll just go through them quickly. So the first one is, why is the triangle your favorite technique? Is it your favorite technique?
If I have to say, as far as submission, I think because I have long legs, long skinny legs, and when I compete in a featherweight, I'm a tall guy, so I think I always had a lot of pride on my guard. So I play a lot of sleeves. So I always, as far as submissions, I always been triangle was one of my favorite ones. I always like sweeps and stuff for a long time. And it's something we can talk a little bit more about. I don't know if some people too familiar with like the term guardeiro, which means like the guy who plays guard in Portuguese, or passador, which is like the guy who's a passer. And sometimes people put negative some negative self-labels, something like, oh, no, I'm a guard player, I'm not a top player. Or maybe, no, I'm a top player, I don't play bottom. And I did that for a long time because it was back, like, you both pull, you don't go up, I'm a guard player, I don't play top, And it's stuff that over the years I started to actually fight it, to really improve. And nowadays I love passing, and when I go in tournaments, I just go according to who I'm going to face. If I feel like I'm going to pull, I'm going to go take downs, I'm going to stay up. So nowadays I feel super balanced with my game. But triangle, I think triangle is my favorite one from, playing open guard and stuff.
Did starting to do more MMA training change that, being a guardiero, to wanting to have more of a top game or a balanced game? You've done a couple of MMA fights.
Yeah, I did, but not so much. I enjoyed wrestling a lot, because I never trained wrestling in Brazil, and when I started training in Arizona, I really enjoyed. So I don't really care much, to be honest, about the no-gi. I've done some stuff, but ADCC and stuff. It's cool. But I just love the gi. I just enjoy more. It's not this is bad or worse. It's not about that. It's just whatever feel that you want to spend more of your time. And the reason why, honestly, I started to work on my top game was for myself. I wanted to prove myself that, because I started questioning those beliefs, like, why am I guardeiro? Like, why? And I cannot pass guard. So I started to force myself in tournaments to let people pull, to use more my judo. So I started getting more comfortable, and it paid off. I'd say years proving. So I started studying a lot of passing. So I feel that I have a good knowledge of passing, but I did study a lot for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, then the last question from Twitter. Actually, there's a couple more. What tips do you have for newbies, for new people, to retain the techniques? Because when you start jiu-jitsu, it's unlike most activities that you've done before, and you're being exposed to many techniques and many details. No, put your elbow here, put your hand here, grab this way, don't grab that way. And I know it can be overwhelming for new people. So then what tips do you have for those guys to remember as much as they can and get as much as they can out of classes? And in 140 characters, I'm reading a lot into this, but I know that this is a question that I get a lot.
I understand, but at the same time, it's a tricky question because it depends how the coaching style is. Mm-hmm. It really depends where they're training. That may be a place that maybe people don't give them a lot of flexibility, or have to do this or have to do that. And again, I can give suggestions, but at the end of the day, most of these people, they're not running the class or choosing what they want to do. It's just whatever is presented in class. So it's a tough one. But for example, in my school, again, we work with topics. Now, the beginners class, we've been doing a month of the back system, how to maintain, how to get out, understand weak and strong side, finishes from weak and strong side, back reset. So mastering the back system. So if I have to say, but again, it's tough because a lot of the things, a lot of the listeners don't have control, but it's to work by systems. You know, maybe, you know, for this month, I'm going to work on my spider guard. That's it. And then you're going to understand patterns, grips, and so forth. How do I deal with the one in the top? You know, so I'm a big fan of.
So not a knee bar from turtle one day and an escape from mount the next and a crazy cartwheel guard pass the day after.
Yeah, because sometimes people, again, it comes a lot. Coach, I change a lot of my coaching over the years because I'm studying coaching. And not only just, I have one this right in front of me right now, Bill Walsh. The score takes care of itself, my philosophy on leadership. So stuff like that, just seeing different views of different coaches from football, from basketball, whatever, just expand. And then little by little start seeing like, oh, man, yeah, I've been doing this wrong for so long. And I start to adapt that to jiu-jitsu. So I still have a lot to learn in coaching. But I feel that picking a topic to stay around, sometimes a topic can be shorter, and then you can be done with it quick. Sometimes or not. So in this case, for the beginners, twice a week I have class for the beginners Monday through Thursday. Monday and Wednesday they've been working the back system. Tuesdays and Thursdays they doing the takedown. So right now it's just collar drag, Kochigari, and double leg. That's it for the month. You know, and they just repeat, and now they're starting to get the time of the Kochigari, the Futsuri. You know, so I think the repeat sometimes can be boring. We're like, oh, man, you're doing the same stuff again. Like, yeah, we are. You know, so it's just some of the positions they have to practice again. But again, different styles. It's a tough one to say, but I'm a fan of having teaching class by topics of the week or the month.
Okay. Now this next question leads right into the main thing that I want to talk to you about, which is what got you started with the whole mental coaching thing? Because that's one thing that you're known for, and there are a lot of great competitors out there who might not be very good instructors. And the example that I always use is Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was a fantastic boxer, might not have been the best teacher. You know, you would have done a lot better training under Angelo Dundee if you wanted to learn boxing than Mike Tyson, because your lessons would be short, brutal, and you would probably not come back to it after, you know, your first 60 seconds of learning. So what got you started on the whole mental coaching thing? Was it for you or for your students or for both?
It was straight up 100% for me. I'm going to give the quick version because it can stay for like 3 hours. Well, the first time that I really noticed, that was my first trigger that something was holding me back, it was in 1998. That was my last tournament as a brown belt at the Brazilian Nationals, and I was doing well. I think as a brown belt, I won most of the tournaments that I competed, so I was doing really well, and I had opportunity to be sponsored by Red Nose. And I pressure myself in such a way that, you know, I have to show the results. I have to show the results that I froze like really bad because I was focusing on the outcome. Folks, I have to win. I can't lose. This is my first tournament representing them, this and that, you know, all that stuff, and start to I end up losing to Edson Diniz. He's the one that a year and a half later he went to the finals with BJ in 2000, when it was 2000. So I lost by 42 in advantages. It was a crazy match, but one of those matches, I don't know if you or any of the listeners have been in a match that you just have flashbacks. You don't even remember why it exactly happened, and because mentally I wasn't there. But and then the next day I was able to compete at the Open, which I never really done too much, especially because I was a smaller guy, so I never had too many openings to do it. And I competed, and I felt great. But
all the pressure was gone now.
What's that?
Because all the pressure was gone now.
Exactly. So I started to question myself, why can't I perform no anxiety one day and full anxiety the other day? And then I kind of put that aside, and then years and years later, my U.S. journey started in 1999, and when it was 2010, I felt that kind of hitting me again, and I was competing. I took a break of like 4 years without competing, and I felt that I wanted to compete, and that happened the same thing. But this day, I won my division, and I lost the Open. But I felt the same trigger, and at the same time, like, man, I'm feeling the same thing. And then I just got frustrated with myself, and I ended up, it's not that, because this match that I won, people sometimes think that I'm being hard on myself, that I won. I only had one match, and I won by 18-0. And people would be like, well, you're not happy. I was like, dude, it's not the point. I'm saying, like, how I felt. It didn't feel right. I didn't feel right. So at that moment, which was August 2010, I made a decision that I want to get to the bottom of this. And I started started finding courses and reading books, and started to open my eyes to, because I had no self-awareness, to be honest, about my feelings. And finally, when I started doing better, I started to share this with the students. Because I saw some guys like, man, this dude trains like a freaking animal, and it's not delivering a tournament, and so I couldn't relate with that. And then I started talking with a few people here and there, and noticed that they start to perform better. And one day, I was like, man, I don't have time to sit and talk with every single student, about it. So I just decided to do a group class. I was like, hey, guys, on Saturday I want to do a class. I'm not charging or anything, just going to go there and talk about things that have been working for me and things that I've been studying. And by that point, I already finished my certification of the mental coach. I had no plans of doing what I did with the BJJ mental coach or having a product, zero. It was just for myself. It really was. All this, the course, everything. But since I started to notice that was helping people, and I did a class and 40 people showed up, because you always think that
40?
Yeah, 40 people showed up.
Wow,
for this class.
Huge number. Showing that there's a problem.
Because you always think that you're the only one with the problem. Like, man,
right.
Everyone in the warm-up area is calm and confident. I'm the only one that I'm not confident. I'm the only person in this building that is actually nervous, Yeah. So it was great for my students at the time to kind of put their guard down a little bit, it's okay to have fear, Mm-hmm. And in my school, I tell them, like, sometimes they say, like, oh, man, you're not supposed to, to show weakness. I don't play like that. You know what I mean? I share my feelings with them. And I started to do more classes. People started doing better. And then I decided I was going to do an open young event in Arizona. Charlene, Hobson, Bruno, Sharuto came down with a big group. And then I decided, like, you know what? I'm going to do a seminar. I had no idea about public speaking, nothing. Just went to Hilton and did a seminar and had 80 people in the hotel. And it just started there. And then I decided, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do this. And I thought about the idea of BJJ mental coach, and has been developing from that. I still have a lot to grow. I still have a lot to learn. But that was pretty much the beginning of me just being self-aware of my fears. And now that I'm aware, what am I going to do with this? How I'm going to deal with this anxiety? How I'm going to handle this fear? And that was it. That was 2010. So not that long ago.
Mm. Well, let's take this into the sort of the realm of the specific example. So there are two kind of categories that I want to ask you about. The first is, what advice do you have based on the training you've done, the teaching you've done, the studying you've done for brand new competitors, people going for their first or second tournament ever? Like, what is the best advice or best couple of pieces of advice that you can give to somebody who's just going for the very first time?
I feel that it's pretty much the the same advice that we give to even people who've been training longer, competing longer, is focus on your performance, not in the outcome, because this is a big deal. I have a list of the top 10 mental mistakes jiu-jitsu competitors make and how to avoid them at the YouTube, and people can download for free on my website as well. And the cool thing about that list that is like, man, I just stopped down when I wrote it down. 10 mistakes that I've made that came into my head. That list came so easy. It was just like boom, 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 boom. That was it. And then I started to take my time in each one and record the videos and so forth. But the number one is focus on the outcome. People put in so much pressure on themselves that they don't want to lose. They don't want to disappoint family, coaches.
So
with
that's a mistake. That's not advice. That's a mistake that they're making, focusing on the outcome.
Yeah, well, if they're focus on the outcome is the mistake. But they should be focused on the performance.
Right.
Instead of because they focus so much and like, man, am I going to win? Am I going to lose? And then you're like, man, really focus on the performance. Focus on things that you can actually control, because you have no control of the outcome of the tournament. You can influence the outcome by doing your training, doing your homework, and performing to the best of your ability. But still, you can still perform to the best of your ability and lose.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have a great day and you lose, and sometimes you have a crappy day and you pull it off. It was ugly, but you made it. You made it happen. So I always tell people, focus on your performance. Don't focus on the outcome. Focus on things that you can't control, because it will lead to a lot of muscle tension, anxiety, and frustration of not performing to the best of your ability, especially when you lose. But even sometimes when you win, I don't know if some of the listeners can relate to this, but I struggle a little bit with the perfectionism. That's something that I always need to be aware of it. And then even sometimes when I win a match, I'll be super hard on myself and just focus on the negative things that I did instead of giving props to myself for some of the positive things. Mm-hmm. So I share some techniques of how to handle this better, but that was a huge one for me. I would lose them. I would win sometimes a tournament, and I'll go home and I'll be really focused on the things that I did wrong, and which is bad. And perfectionism can be good and can be bad. It's about a balance. Mm-hmm. And anytime, if people listen to this interview and you feel that it has some perfectionism patterns, most likely you are a hard worker, you have strong work ethic, and you don't accept anything. You don't accept no mediocrity. You want to make sure that things are done well, all that kind of stuff. That's good things with the perfectionism. Now, the flip side of this kind of behavior or determination, it breeds a lot of high expectations. And when you don't meet your expectations, sometimes you crash hard and it's super hard on yourself. So it's understanding when after a tournament to give credit to yourself, to the positive and things that you did, so they keep doing it, and what went wrong, let's stop and work on it.
Mm-hmm. It's funny how combat sports are different from team sports there, because if a baseball team wins 5 games in a row, or a football team or soccer or anything, and then they lose a match or a game, nobody goes, oh, those bums, they're finished. Ronda Rousey goes and wins a whole bunch of fights. She loses one, and people are going, oh, she's done. Or, whoever, any top jiu-jitsu guy. Roger Gracie goes out there, loses a match. Oh, clearly he's done. It's combat sports people look at differently, both when they're watching it and also when they're doing it themselves. They're just so much harder on themselves, and they're so much harder on the athletes.
Yeah, because one of the things that I see is because there's no one to blame. Let's be honest. You can play soccer like, yeah, the goalie messed up. Yeah, I play awesome, but that guy messed up. That guy just it's so easy not to take responsibility in a group sport. And when you say it could be like maybe playing tennis, it's one-on-one, and there's no excuses. So with jiu-jitsu, I always tell people that this is a good tip for the listeners as far as analyzing your performance. winning or losing. Usually I say you need to ask yourself two questions. What did you do right, and what could you have done differently? So what did you do right? And be like, hey, maybe I lost the match, but man, I've been messing up my guard pull and people have been passing, but this time I pull well, and eventually something else happened, but the guard pull went well. So give credit to yourself for that, for the positive things that you did. And then what could you have done differently? And this is not just what did you do right or could you have done differently just in the tournament. That includes preparation as well. What did I do right during the preparation that I want to keep doing? And what could you have done differently in the performance again or preparation? Because when something happens in tournament, I like to say that 4 key elements of when you lose a match, let's say, they're related to either a technical mistake, a physical, strategic, or mental. That could be 1, could be 2, 3, or a combination of 4. When I say technical, maybe you felt great. You in your mindset, everything was awesome, but you let go one grip for a split second. Mm-hmm. And because you did that, you know how it is in jiu-jitsu, 3 minutes later you got choked, someone took your back because started way back there when it didn't, you made a technical mistake. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And another one is physical. And the physical is not just like, I wasn't in shape. A big one is IBJJF tournaments with the weigh-ins the day of, and you have a bad cut.
Yeah.
Man, you can have a Ferrari, but if you don't have gas in that bad boy, you're not going to drive it. So
yeah.
So that's something to take in consideration too. I think everyone listening to this has been competing for a while. Maybe you ran into the situation before that you made weight, but that did not look pretty. With performing, it just wasn't that. So there's something to watch. Strategic mistake too, because sometimes not necessarily technical, but like, man, I should have pulled when I decided to play top, or little decisions that you have to make quick and in the middle of a scramble or something. Sometimes just you use the wrong strategy. And the mental, which is you just couldn't deliver. The nerves got the best of you, and you could have performed to the best of your ability. So usually they're related to the 4. Sometimes people talk with me about the 5th one. Be like, yeah, I forgot the 5th one. Which one? Like, okay, you got screwed. The referee screwed you.
Yeah, the referee screwed me.
Yeah. So, man, I've blamed referee before a bunch of times, and I guarantee the listeners to, at some point, someone done it like, man, there was so messed up, or you got screwed, and then
but it's not controllable. Everything else that you've mentioned, you do have some control over. The referee, you don't have a control. Like, what can you do? I was fighting, and a meteorite came down and knocked me out. Like, whatever. You can't really take that personally.
This is something that one example that I like to use. I like to call the 2-second pass, guard pass scenario, which means this happened years and years ago, and that's why I kind of use this as an example. Let's say for the listeners to imagine you playing guard and you're winning the match by 1 advantage. But suddenly something happened, your opponent got in your side mount, 1 second, 2 seconds, and the ref gave the points and you push it away. So it should have been an advantage, but he gave the 3 points. Match continued and you lost by 3 points and 1 advantage. Now big commotion, right? Oh, here's the video, it didn't this and that, it didn't pass. And then get back to the school, this big commotion, everyone started getting in the wagon that, oh, yeah, you got screwed, no, you totally got it, should be advantage, so 1-on-1, and you did better, you should take them, like, stop right there, because when you're looking, like, what could you have done differently, that's what you need to look into the match, because instead of blaming the referee, something that you cannot control, just stop and think, like, why did he get in my side mount in the first place? Let's start with that, because at some point a grip was broken, something, the distance was compromised. Maybe it was supposed to push you, pull, vice versa, whatever that is. Not magically, someone just jumping in your side mount, and they force you to push, and get back. So was the referee wrong? Absolutely. It was not supposed to be points, but there's nothing that you can do about it. The fact that that you lost or that you did the points cannot be changed. Only your response to the fact can be changed, which means, okay, let me take a look. Why did he get there? So hopefully I don't get in this situation again, or at least minimize the chance of getting caught in the same situation. And a lot of the times people want to decide one moment of the match. That was it. I lost because of that. At the same thing in basketball. Last shot of the game, the guy who missed it, everyone was blaming the guy for that. For the last
what about
shot.
all the shots that missed in the first 99% of the basketball?
Yeah, what about the shots, the rebounds, the whole thing? So we need to think about what about the openings that you had right there and you didn't pull the trigger, and some of the positions that you had because maybe your fear of making costly mistakes held you back. So when my students come with the referee, they know better. They're not like that. Don't want to hear. But, it's just like, okay, I understand. He messed up. He did. It was wrong, but you have zero control of this. Let's just do the best we can not to land in the same position or minimize chance of. And of course, not everyone's going to agree with what I have to say because everyone has a story that he got super, super screwed in a tournament. But it's just reality. The results done. All you can do is change your response.
I'm trying to think. There was a boxing match years ago where somebody got screwed by the judges, and his comment afterwards, and they were like, "Well, how do you feel? You should have won that match." And his comment was something like, "Well, I could have won that match. All I had to do was knock him out." So, yes, the judges have a role to play, but it's kind of like you saying, well, why did we even get in that position where the guy passed my guard for 2 seconds? He should have passed my guard for 0 seconds, and then there would have been no way to get points for him to get points and to leave it in the judges' hands. And any time, ultimately in jiu-jitsu, I mean, if you arm lock somebody or choke somebody, I mean, okay, if it's not a borderline illegal technique or if you do a straight arm lock or a triangle choke or rear naked choke on somebody and they tap out, you haven't left it in the judge's hands. So it is something that you can, I mean, of course, it's not that easy. It's much easier to say than do.
Mistakes should happen in any sports. It happen like in Super Bowl. It's going to happen in jiu-jitsu. It will, as long as it's sometimes can be tough, but I mean, this got a lot better over the years. As long as there's not bad intentions of the referee, which that's something that really bothers me is, if you know that there's a intention, which doesn't happen that often anymore, but unfortunately this, it can happen of someone that a decision that someone could have done better, but the other one knows someone or is close, has some relationship or whatever. Unfortunately, this is not like it used to back in the day. I think it used to be pretty bad, but now it's a lot more and more professional. But yeah, mistakes are going to happen. Period.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was just what I'll do when I put this interview up on my website, I'll include those 10 videos that you've done on YouTube because they're really good. Those top 10 mental mistakes jiu-jitsu competitors make. So I'll include that all in the below the actual interview because I think people will get a lot out of it. And I think a lot of it applies not only to jiu-jitsu but also the rest of life. People, this fear of public speaking that people have, where it's a fear worse than death, and it's kind of related to, as you were talking about, disappointing other people. You go to this tournament and you're disappointing other people, you're going to look like an idiot. Well, really, if you go up there and do public speaking and you completely screw it up, what's the worst that's going to happen? It's nothing, but that's not how our minds work. So I think a lot of this stuff applies outside the jiu-jitsu arena as well.
Yeah, and when we're talking about how we use this outside, for example, when we say, because I like to teach when you analyze your performance, right? Like I said, what did you do right? What could you have done differently? Because the thing is, you can use this to analyze any fact or event in your life. You lost you got fired from your work. What did I do right while I was there? What could I have done differently? If I do it all over again, what could I have done differently? Or maybe you had a really bad relationship, divorce, and you just say, what did I do right when I was in this relationship? What could I have done different? You know, for my future challenges or my future endeavors that I go. That could be whatever, relationship, business, jiu-jitsu. Just learn how to respond to the facts in your life and not react, not use just your emotions, but actually use your intellect to be able to stop, breathe, and reevaluate this belief, reevaluate this negative thought, and really make a decision of what direction do I want to go. So self-awareness is number one. You know, you have to be aware of those negative thoughts that are being bombed. So I do talk a lot about in my videos about self-awareness, because that's pretty much what in order to recognize those, the first thing, you even recognize those thoughts, because you need to learn how to self-monitor and self-manage those thoughts. And also number one is locate them, you know, be aware that there's a negative wave of thoughts coming in, or doubts, insecurities, assumptions. And the next one is manage those thoughts. So I like to say that I like to teach people to become more emotionally mature, which is have the ability to self-monitor, self-manage their own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, whether in jiu-jitsu, personal, or professional life.
Mm-hmm. And jiu-jitsu can be sort of the testing ground for developing this emotional self-awareness and mental toughness that
Absolutely.
You can then use in the. I mean, some people do it through running, right? Or they join the army and they go through something tough and they come out the other side. And some people do it through, going through medical school, and some people do it through going to jiu-jitsu school.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of jiu-jitsu for personal development, especially competitions, putting yourself in under pressure situations. I really dig that of people facing their fears, and in each person is fighting an internal battle that no one knows about. It's just their own person. Each one have their own fears, and your fears are as unique as your fingerprints. There's no other. Each one is fighting their own internal battles. So I feel that jiu-jitsu it's a great way to do it, to push that. And I just came out with a book called Launching Your Jiu-Jitsu Competition Journey After 30, 10 Steps to Maximize Your Competition Experience. And the thing behind this is, especially for the crowd over 30, oftentimes because it is so, if you've been listening to this, for any other listeners over 30, and maybe you've never practiced sports before, now you train jiu-jitsu, or maybe you used to be active when I was younger, but now you're over 30 and you have responsibilities and family responsibilities, and sometimes you start putting self-limiting beliefs in yourself that I'm too old for this. I'm too old to train jiu-jitsu. I'm too old to try a tournament. I'm too old to sign up for classes in college. Whatever that fear is, whatever those self-limiting beliefs are, your job is to have the self-awareness to stop and be like, wait. Let me reevaluate this belief here. Am I too old to go to college? Am I too old to sign up for classes? Am I too old to go to competition? Or what if I don't fail? If I fail, all those things I like to share a lot in the book, because it's not about just the book definitely helps people from the moment that they said, I would like to get involved with tournaments. What should I do? And I break down steps from 1 to 10. But before that, I put a lot of personal development into it for people to reevaluate what is holding them back, not just from signing up for a jiu-jitsu tournament, but holding them back to go after their goals and dreams in their personal lives. Things that you want to do for so long, but why? What is the source of the problem? Locate the source of the problem and deal with it, and then face that fear if that's something that you really want to pursue, personal or professional.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking forward to checking out the book. And you said that just launched?
Yeah, actually, it was yesterday, the official launch.
Congratulations!
I'm a promoter in Arizona, and I'll send you one. I'll send you one on Monday. I'm a promoter in Arizona. I've been promoted for 15 years, and the tournament here, the Arizona scene is good. I mean, there's really good talents coming out of here. I mean, our biggest tournaments this year. Had near 800 competitors. We have a strong scene here. We had the first Masters only tournament in Phoenix, and that was the official launch of the book too. So it was awesome. It was a great time. Like really laid back vibe. Even the Masters, the World's Masters and Seniors, the vibe is pretty cool too. You know, a lot of people the same, and people have family responsibilities, and they're there to challenge themselves. And I feel that there's a lot of respect in between the competitors. So it was a really cool vibe.
Cool. Well, I can't think of a better place to wrap up our chat, Gustavo. If people want to get a hold of that book, or but if they're in Arizona and they want to train with you, I'm guessing Googling your name with the word Arizona will get them to your website. But if they're not in Arizona, if they're all over the world, which is where people are listening to this from, how do they get a hold of the book?
It's the BJJmentalcoach.com, and today is December 6th. In 2 weeks, should be available on Kindle, on ebook as well, Amazon. So, but right now, the BJJmentalcoach.com, we got a lot of good content there, blogs that I write, the top 10 mental mistakes people can download as well on their phone, the audio, and I have my program Inner Discovery for Auto Success, which is it's a DVD that is also available on demand. That's after Accomplish My School. That's my most meaningful accomplishment that I've ever achieved professionally. Put a lot of all my success and failures in that, on my experience from personal development, mental skills training, competitions, coaching, and that has been making a lot of impact and a lot of people, even some high-level competitors as well, which is awesome to get some of my good friends that they rap the movement and they learn from it, so it's pretty cool. So more and more people are going to see the BJJ Mental Coach patches and their gis, and I like to say that people who are representing the movement, which is this concept of, performing to the best of your abilities with the tools and knowledge that you have right now, at this being peaceful with yourself, that you know that you did the best you could. So more, and I say that if this is something that has been making an impact in your life, and you feel that you'd like other people to experience this, they can represent wearing the patch. And I have in MMA, one of my really good friends that I'm his mental coach, Talis Matus. He's my main representative in MMA. He's actually been competing with the gi too again, which is cool. And with the gi, I have Shaolin, Hobson, Bruno Bastos, who represent my brand. Luan Carvalho, which is the Brazilian national champion, beat Michael Lange this year. Tough kid coming up, and a lot of the mental coach has been helping him. Orlando Monteiro, another brown belt coming up. So I have a lot of good talents coming out that's supporting the movement, and it's awesome. And it just started just with me taking, just learning about myself, helping students. Now it's going global. So it's awesome, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the movement here.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for sharing some of this great information with the listenership.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Podcast listeners, there's a pretty good chance that you're listening to this on your smartphone, right? You're walking around, you got your smartphone in your pocket, you got your earbuds in, you're listening. If you've got a smartphone and you do jiu-jitsu, then you should check out my free Roadmap for BJJ app. This is a video-based app. It's an app that goes on your phone. You can check out the different sections. It's got different techniques. It's got different positions. And it breaks down the big picture of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for you so that you're not going to be so lost on the ground when you're training. So you're going to know kind of, sort of what you should be doing in every position, along with the specific techniques that you should be using. So if you go to grapplearts.com/roadmap, there'll be links there to get this app for free, both in the iTunes store, if you've got an iPhone, or in the Android store. If you've got an Android phone, there's also Kindle versions of it out there as well. Once again, you can grab that at grapplearts.com/roadmap. That'll point you in all the right directions to get this app, whatever kind of phone you have.